Today, I'm showing you a short clip from podcast 174 with Grandma Tina, who has really helped her grandson Wyatt, who's 2.5 years old. She's been helping him for over a year with taking my online toddler and preschooler course. But we talk a lot about helping him with feeding, talking, and self-care. So I love this whole episode, but let's watch this clip just to get a preview. Hi, I'm Dr. Mary Barbera, autism mom, board certified behavior analyst, and best-selling author. Each week, I provide you with a video about turning things around in the autism world, or even for toddlers just showing signs. In this week's video podcast, we have a little boy, Wyatt, who was originally diagnosed with global developmental delays and then went on to get a diagnosis of autism at 19 months old. We are presenting a snippet about some of the challenges that he faces and some of the progress that he has made. The episode 95 with Dr. Keith Williams is really important because he's an internationally known researcher in the field of picky eating and feeding disorders. And he was on 95, and he said, like, scurvy and rickets is through the roof now for, first time he's seen it in decades. And these kids are actually, and I don't think that's the case because he's getting baby food and that probably has like a lot of the nutrition in there. But so we want to link that in the show notes. Has he ever progressed to, like, he won't eat any like Cheerios or those cracker things that babies chew on? He doesn't do any of that?
Well, in fact, just here recently, my daughter-in-law has told me that at his feeding therapy and speech therapy, they're able to give him, they're like the little star-shaped kind of, I don't know if they're crackers or whatever, but they break off like the points of the star and give him that. Maybe he's barely, and he'll accept that a little bit. As far as with Dr. Williams, that was one of my favorite podcasts. I did order his book. I was actually very fortunate. I emailed him and we were actually able to speak a couple of times. He was good enough to call me, and he was the person that actually worked with us to help get him to get the cup, accept the cup, and get the cup to his mouth, and eventually. And so he was great. And of course, it was just general information. Also, he didn't know Wyatt, but he was just kind to talk to me and walk me through a little bit of that. But like you say, it's kind of intimidating, I guess, for all of us because of choking or gagging or throwing up. That where I can be more of a detective and try things with speech and play. Not so much with feeding.
Yeah, it's really dangerous. Now, is he gagging or throwing up?
No. We've been really lucky with that. He has had gastrointestinal examinations, some feeding evaluations. In fact, he's going to have another one in a couple of months. They haven't found any medical reasons, though, because I know how you stress ruling out medical, and so we're trying to do that. But yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing is, if you might want to investigate, like, I forget what they're called, but like they're little hard cookies that 9-month-olds just suck on, and just see if he'll take that, or with a feeding therapist there. But there are all kinds of feeding therapists too, and there's more like sensory oral versus behavioral. And I would say, Dr. Williams and my approach is really behavioral. I mean, of course, ruling out the medical issues too. And I'm thinking his height and weight is okay.
Yes, his height and weight is okay. Now, his weight is a little bit under average, but it's not at a point of medical concern.
Mm-hmm. And how about
slender boy
that have like chunks in them? Will he accept that?
I don't know that I've tried that, and that would be a good idea to try something
And the
like
other
that.
thing, especially with kids on the spectrum, they can get very brand specific and container specific. So if you're out buying jars of baby food with the little baby on it and feeding him directly out of that, I would really investigate whether you can puree real foods, puree it down, smooth, then stop, I mean, of course, this is all assuming he can swallow and everything. But I do have a story that I've told many places. I'm not sure where I tell it, if I tell it in my current book, but I evaluated a 6-year-old who was eating corn chips and French fries in the cafeteria at school, and then his mom wanted to see me, and she came in, and he was 6, and she's like, I'm losing my mind. Her husband was off fighting in Iraq or Afghanistan, and I have him, and I have a 8-year-old son, and I can't even take him to the grocery store. He's not potty trained. So it's like money for diapers, and he's clearing shelves, and he didn't seem like that at school. And then I said, well, what about food? And she said French fries and corn chips. And then I said, well, what about proteins and vegetables? And she's like, oh, only in the baby food. And I was just like, baby food? But I was trying not to be like, what? A 6-year-old who can chew and swallow eating baby food? That sounds weird. And I said, well, how much baby food are you buying? And she said 52 jars a week. So, why it's different. He's had global delays. He doesn't eat corn chips and French fries, but there may be listeners out there who do baby food because of the nutritional facts, and they can chew and swallow. But like one step towards more normal food is to start doing your own food, taking away the processed baby food that's in certain containers, even dumping out, regular applesauce, when Lucas did a feeding program, for instance, every time he had a meal, it was in styrofoam cups that were not see-through, so that he didn't know what was coming. So, it was applesauce, yogurt, maybe. And I know for this,
that's a great idea.
Yeah. So some of that you may want to play around with. And then if you were pureeing your own, you could change the texture and make it lumpier. Okay. And then the other thing about feeding, which I would recommend for everybody, you didn't do it because he's really just taking the baby food that you feed him, but in chapter 10 of my book and in the free book resources, which you can get, which we can link in the show notes, there is a feeding form where you put down the easy foods, the medium foods, and the difficult foods. And as you progress towards more chunky things, maybe you could make those, or maybe he does have a preference, like with he doesn't like orange baby food, or he doesn't like, bananas or whatever. And that could go in the medium. And so instead of just, okay, he's 2.5 and he's just going to get smooth baby food, non-orange or non-banana or non-fruit, start to apply these techniques where it's a slow shaping to get him to eat better and to eat variety. Yeah. Well, and it's very exciting that Dr. Keith Williams did call you back and helped you a little bit, which is very nice.
He was so kind.
Yeah, very
nice. Very kind.
Okay, so the feeding, I think we kind of went over some of the ideas for feeding. Also, I will link in the show notes. I did a really good podcast interview with Melly Potok recently from Munchbug. And she is a SLP who specializes in feeding. She has a little mini course, and she also has a lot of good graphics on Instagram about what sippy cups to buy, what not to buy. I would really try to get him off of a pacifier at night and nap. I don't know that that's a huge problem. If he was on a bottle, I definitely, I have 6 steps to weaning. We can link in the show notes, weaning from anything, even weaning from baby food. You can apply these same techniques in a behavioral way. And then finally, in terms of the feeding, you already have feeding evaluations and feeding people in place, but make sure you get behavioral feeding people into the mix, because you'll make more progress, I think. And then also no calories in between meals, but that's not such a problem because he's fed his, somebody feeds him. That's another
Yes.
thing is, if anybody works on, you could have adaptive spoons with thicker stuff like applesauce versus very thin stuff that comes off the spoon very easily. You might want to have him start to feed himself. And if he could suck on like cookie kind of things that are made for babies. I hope you enjoyed that short snippet from podcast number 174 with Grandma Tina. If you did, I would love a comment, leave a thumbs up, or share the video with somebody else who may benefit. And for more information about joining our online course and community, you can attend a free workshop at marybarbera.com/workshop. And I'll see you right here next week.